Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us. And if you've been joining us for services over the past month and a half or so, you are probably surprised to see us not on the bima. And yes, we have one of the most beautiful sanctuaries, I think, perhaps in all of North America and all of the world. And it was important for me to bring you and us from the small chapel into the large sanctuary a number of weeks ago. But it occurred to me that we don't remind ourselves enough of other aspects of beauty, artistic beauty, and meaningful connections, which are a different type of beauty, within our synagogue. So we have this beautiful tree, which is actually two trees touching, you might say. And I nicknamed this the Atzei Chaim, the trees of life. Many of us are familiar with the name Eitz Chaim, a tree of life, but we want more than one tree of life. We want as much life as we possibly can handle, as we could have. These are the two Atzei Chaim, and they're reminiscent of the handles of a Torah scroll. Every Torah scroll is nicknamed Atzei Chaim. The two handles are the trees of life. Over and above the beautiful structure itself, we see these plaques, and inscribed within these plaques are memories of love, of joy, of appreciation, of satisfaction, of tears. Many of our synagogue members have placed the names of their loved ones departed upon these plaques, just as many of our synagogue members have inscribed within these plaques moments of celebration. So tonight, as we prepare for Shalom Aleichem, bringing angels into your home and our shul, we're also taking stock of what it means to be part of Atzei Chaim, at least two trees of life, beautiful artwork, and beauty of an entirely greater dimension attached to those beautiful trees, the beauty of remembering and loving one another. And now, Shalom Aleichem. If you have a siddur, it's on page number 5. If not, perhaps you can just join along with us from memory. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharetz, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei ha-shalom, malachei elyon, mi-melech, malachei amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, malachei ha-shalom, malachei elyon, mi-melech, malachei hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem l'shalom, malachei ha-shalom, malachei elyon, mi-melech, malachei hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now we turn to the Lechuna Rananah on page number 11 in the siddur, the first stanza in Hebrew. Lechuna Rananah l'Adonai, Nari'a Litzur Yish'enu, Nikad Mafana B'Todah,
Bizmirot narialo, nikadma fana bitoda, Bizmirot narialo, Kiel gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher beyado mecherei aretz, v'toafot harim lo. On the English side, the left column on page 11, pilgrimage. We may understand our days to be a pilgrimage in time, from the 6 days of the work week to the experience of a day of rest, holy time. The generation that left Egypt and wandered in the wilderness never reached its destination, the place of God's rest. But every Friday evening, we have the opportunity to make the journey anew. This time with an openness that will enable us to truly enter the land and come close to the divine. On page number 13, on the English side, the left margin, it's 3 short midrashim down. One little comment on a phrase in the book of Psalms. We are to sing a new song every day, a new song, for the divine Spirit has entered me anew. Let each and every one of us see a new spirit entering herself or himself this evening as the sun slowly prepares to set and rest for its own Shabbat. On page 14, the English side, the heavens shall be glad and the earth rejoice, the sea and its fullness roar, the meadows and all that grows in them exult, even the trees of the forest shall sing praise as Adonai comes to judge the earth, judging lands with righteousness and peoples with divine truth. The heavens, the earth, the sun, all witness God's coming to be part of our lives. On page 16, an excerpt from an English psalm prior to singing a bit, on page number 16. It's the last 2 stanzas. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine, holy name. The prayer book sees us as being righteous. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name. When you and I call out to God in sincerity, pronouncing the divine holy name, we are seen with the confidence of this psalm in the prayer book as being righteous. Join me, page 21. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod vos, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Hishtachavul Adonai badrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim el kavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halavanon, Vayirkidem kamo egel Levanon v'siryon kamo ben reimim. Kol Adonai chotze lavot esh. Kol Adonai yachil midbar. Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh. Kol Adonai yechol el ayalot. Vayechesof Ya'arot uvechalo kulo omer kavod. Adonai lamabul yashav vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz liamo yitain. Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. A prior psalm mentioned that the heavens and the earth are singing. Here the trees are rejoicing. The world itself is responding to God. And now a more contemporary piece, Holy Ground, from Craig Taubman.
Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way, where you walk, where you stand, where you love, where you praise, all of life is holy ground. Every he, every she, every what, every who, it's in her, it's in them, it's in me, it's in you. In the bitter, in the sweet, in the calm, in the storm, all of life is holy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk and make a holy sound. Take your shoes off, you're on holy ground. When you hurt, when you heal, when you laugh, when you pray, when you hold, when you keep, when you give it away, every second, every minute, every hour, every day, all of life is holy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk and make a holy sound. We take our shoes off, we're on holy ground. We are one people, one story, one tapestry we weave, one journey, one glory, one legacy we leave. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way, where you walk, where you stand, where you love, where you praise, all of life is holy ground. Can you feel the holy ground? Take your shoes off, you're on holy ground.
And now we turn to page 23 for L'Chadodi. The first two stanzas on page 23, the last two stanzas on page 25. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shomor v'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmianu el amiyuchad, Adonai echad, ushmo echad, l'shem multiferet, v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat l'cho v'necha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin Osmo teferatzi v'et Adonai taritzi al yadish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yada da da da. Rise for bowing. Page 25. Boe v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha u'betzala, toch emune am segula. Boe chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 dai. Please remain standing for just a moment. The opening and then the conclusion of the Psalm of Shabbat on page 27. Mizmor shir liyom hashabat, tov lehodot ladonai, ulezamer leshimcha elyon, ulezamer leshimcha elyon. The first stanza on the English side. It is good to thank you, Adonai. It's good to sing to your name, Most High. It is good to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness at each night. The psalm is saying that it's important for us to stop and pause and remember that we are part of something much greater than ourselves. Every morning and every evening, reminiscent of the Shema. On page 28 on the English side, a teaching from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, the upper left corner. One who lives with a sense for the presence knows that to get older does not mean to lose time, but rather to gain time. And also, all of one's deeds, a person's chief task is to sanctify time. All it takes to sanctify time is God, a soul, and a moment. And the three are always here. Tzadik katamar yifrach, keres balvanon yiska, shetulim beveit Adonai, bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu. Od yenovon beseva, tishenim verananim yiyu lehagid ki ashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlatabo. We're remaining standing, and we turn now to the Borchu. The Borchu is on page 39b. Baruch hu et Adonai Amavorach. Baruch Adonai Amavorach le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. The first bracha in the English on page 39b. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, you completed your work of creation on the seventh day, calling this day from one evening to the next the holy Shabbat, and gave this day of rest in all its holiness to your people Israel. Creator of day and night, rolling light before darkness and darkness from light, making day pass and bringing on the evening, distinguishing day from night, Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Living and ever-present God, may your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El chai v'kayam, ta'amidim lochal le'olam. Baruch atah Hama'ariv Aravim. On page 40, we have a paragraph entitled Ahavat Olam, which means love is eternal, love fills the universe. In the evening, this version of a prayer, speaking of love, is nicknamed Ahavat Olam, love filling the universe, love is eternal. The parallel prayer in the morning is called Ahava Rabbah. There is much and great love moving outward, if you will. In the evening time, as we begin to slowly pause and settle down and prepare in a little while for going to sleep, the theme of love is not only the greatness of love, like in the morning, but it's also love that is eternal, filling the entire universe. It's a way of reminding us, as we prepare to go to sleep, that we are part of a universe filled with love. The last two lines, the English side and the Hebrew side. O God, do not ever withdraw your love from us. Baruch atah Adonai, who loves the people Israel. V'avotecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Preparing for the Shema. Page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi Mitzavecha yom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, b'shivtecha b'veitecha, v'alektecha v'aderech, v'shachbecha v'kumecha, v'kishartam la'ot al yadecha, v'hayulet totafot beninecha, Oktavtam al mezuzot beitecha ovisharecha. If you have the siddur, a moment of silence, or on page 42. I Elohechem emet. Page 44, the Mi Chamocha. Umalchuta beratzon kiblu alehem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lecha anu shira B'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lot al seifele malchutecha ra'u v'necha Bokeh yam lifnei Moshe Ze'eli anu v'yamro Adonai yimloch la'olam va'ed V'ne'emar Ki fada Adonai et Yaakov Ugalo mi'ad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. On page 45, the Hashkivenu. And if you have the text before you, please join in with me. As I've said, we have to use the Hebrew word Hashkivenu because there's a sense of protective and reassuring gentleness built into that word. So we'll begin with the word Hashkivenu and then continue with the English, the top of page 45. Hashkivenu, Adonai our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel. And save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Remove from us enemies, pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol mo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. The top of page 46. V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai Asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamra b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash v'shamra b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Amen. Be'alma divrach hirtevim l'chmachotei be'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala u'v'izman karev Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Alam Liol Meil Maya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpar V'yitram V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitale V'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha Brichu Leila Mikobrachata V'shirata Tush Bechata V'nechemata Da'amiran Balma V'imero Amen. 3 times a day, according to the Jewish tradition, we rise for the Amidah, the well-known prayer, which is called the standing up prayer. And the opening blessing of the Amidah speaks of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, our ancestors. Tonight, we're standing by the Atzei Chaim, the trees of life, which represent some of our ancestors. It reminds us of being rooted within our families. You may have the siddur, the traditional text is pages 47 through 52, or you might not have the siddur. Please take just 1 or 2 minutes and reflect back on your ancestors, any of your ancestors, and then take hold of one of the themes in this part of the Amidah, Zocher Chastei Avot. God remembers the pious, kind deeds of the ancestors. And identify for yourself within your own mind the pious kindnesses done by your ancestors. And then perhaps ask, how can you and I continue on and bring more of those pious kindnesses into our world? A few moments of silence. Our greatest prayer is one of peace. And in the siddur, on page number 51, we have the prayer Shalom Rav. It's the last bracha, the last blessing of the Amida. And again, it's brought to us by Craig Taubman on page 51, the Hebrew or the red transliteration ink, Shalom Rav, a great prayer of peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha ve'hakol yoshvei tevel. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha Tasim le'olam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha beit Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha Tasim le'olam.
The full Kaddish on page 54. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, Amen. Be'alma divra chirtei v'lechakutei b'chayechon v'mechon b'chayechol be'it Yisrael b'agala u'vizman karif v'imero. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach Olam Lial Me Almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramah V'yinaseh V'yithadar V'yit'aleh V'yithalal Shmei D'Kudashah B'rechu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata B'shirata Tishbachata V'nechamata Da'amiran Ba'alma V'imero. Amen. Tidkabel tzloton voton dochois rakadam avu hondi bishmai vimero. Amen. Yesh shlomav mitzvachem vimero. Amen. O seshalom b'mamav v'yaseh shalom. Oleinu v'kos v'imero. Amen. Perhaps you have a glass of wine. I hope that you join us with wine for Kiddush and Hamotzi in just a moment. The Kiddush is found on page number 55. It's traditional at this time to rise holding a glass of wine. And again, if you have the siddur, please turn to page 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei parei hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'yavav ratzon chilanu zikaron l'maseh breshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava v'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh HaShabbat. And perhaps you have a piece of bread for the hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Remaining standing, the Aleinu on page 56. Page 56. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakom Latet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kagoye haratzot velo samanu k'mishpachot adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shehu Noteh Shamayim V'Yoser Haaretz U'Moshav Yikaro B'Shamayim Mimal U'Shchinatu Zol Begavei Meromim Hu Eloheinu Einod Emet Malkeinu Evezulatol Kakatu B'Torato V'Yadata Yom V'Shevota El Levavecha Ki Adonai Hu Elohim B'Shamayim Mimal V'Al Haaretz Mitachat Einod Einod. Kakatu b'Toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad. You may be seated. I want to just offer a thought this evening. Today has a special name. It's Rosh Chodesh. Many people are familiar with the name Rosh from Rosh Hashanah, head of the year. Chodesh is the Hebrew word for month. This is the head of the month. And of course, in the Hebrew calendar, during most years, we have 12 months, 12 Chodesh, Chodeshim. This is Rosh Chodesh. We're beginning the month of Elul. which alerts us to the fact that literally in 1 month, Rosh Hashanah is upon us. The Chodesh, the month of Elul, is seen within our Jewish tradition as a doorway of a sort, bringing us into a zone of hopeful readiness. We are slowly, over the next month, called by our hearts and our minds to prepare ourselves for Rosh Hashanah. And this year, these past months of 2020, of the COVID-19 ordeal, have placed us all in very differing frames of reference, and the world is out of kilter, and many of us don't quite know how to proceed past the next day, let alone looking a month into the future. I'm thinking of a sentence in tomorrow's Torah reading. In a fairly lengthy paragraph, which is directed to the Kohanim, the ritual priests, there's one phrase that stands out, and it seems to me just a little bit out of place, almost as if it doesn't belong, or maybe it's there on purpose. And maybe it has two purposes. The phrase is, "You shall be pure to God." The word is tam or tamim in Hebrew. Sometimes it's translated as wholehearted. You shall be pure or wholehearted to God. The initial understanding of this phrase, "you shall be pure and wholehearted to God," is that it's directed to the Kohanim, the ritual religious leaders of the ancient times. But I'm going to look at it differently. I'm going to take it out of its context and say that it speaks to you and me as we're walking into a new time zone. And it's perhaps a challenge, perhaps a helpful bit of advice. Can we set aside the mental and psychological chaos that we have been enduring these past months and see before us the opportunity to be as close with God as we possibly can? That's what tamim, pure and wholehearted, is saying to me and hopefully to you. Instead of seeing our next month as a deadline, we must get ready by, let's see the next month as 29 little steps. And each one of those steps brings us a little bit closer to the intimacy that we all need, that we're all yearning for, with the one that has no actual name, with the one that cannot be put into a box, cannot be limited, cannot be constrained, can't be imagined, the one and only. And we call it Adonai, or God, or Elohim, or Shaddai. We have 29 little steps to slowly, by looking inside ourselves and looking beyond ourselves, to prepare for being at one with God on the celebration of the creation of the universe, which is Rosh Hashanah. May this Shabbat be the first of those 29 steps that you and I can take together to slowly become tamim, pure and wholehearted, each one in his or her own way, but knowing that we're not alone of people, and certainly not alone from God. And now it's an opportunity for us to remember our loved ones. At this point in time in the service, we offer the Mourner's Kaddish. If you have a siddur, the Mourner's Kaddish is on page number 58, page 58. And on this Shabbat, We remember with great love Philip Reddish, Larry Michelle, Ike Gerwich, Florence Schreier, Benny Friedlander, Faye Klein, Max Gottlieb, Sarai Polanski, Elisa Weissman, Bernard Rosenthal, Bert Signoff, Fanny S. Fuller, Ida Schneiderman, John Shepard, Mendel Wallman, Lillian Rudnick, and we mention the name Phil Linick, who recently died out of state but has family here in Mobile and roots here in Mobile. If you know of someone else who has recently died and you wish to mention his or her name at this time in your own home, please do so. Those inclined to rise for Kaddish are invited to rise. Again, Kaddish on page number 58. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Be'olma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'izman kariv v'meru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'olam olamei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha b'rechu. La'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tush berchata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'olma v'meru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. May all who are mourning and grieving be blessed with a shalom, and may all know that we are extending our love as well. We shall conclude in just a moment. Because we are now a month away from Rosh Hashanah, it's the first day of the month of Elul, we add a psalm. It's Psalm number 27, and it's found here on page 59 in the siddur. Tonight, a melody. And it's brought to us by Craig Taubman. The melody speaks of my God as being my light and my help. Oh, that reminds me, I apologize. I forgot announcements. Please remember that Havdalah is tomorrow night. Oh, of course, Saturday morning services tomorrow from 10 to about 11:15 a.m. Tomorrow night, Havdalah is at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, and you've all received the new Zoom information because it went out with the Shabbat Thoughts email. Monday is Tanakh study on Zoom from 12 to 1. Story time is 5:30 to 6. Story time on Zoom for our young children. And Tuesday, the Zoom Spirit series continues. It's more of a spiritual contemplation kind of a group. It's not really a class. And the topic is Elul. That's the name of this month. Making Connections. Elul, the month of making connections. And of course, Friday and Saturday, we now obviously are on YouTube. And you've seen something new. Perhaps you've seen it on our Facebook page, and we'll be moving it to our other social media as well. It's called Tekiah Time. We don't blow the shofar on Shabbos because Shabbos is such an important special zone of time that even the practice of shofar, which is on Rosh Hashanah, and also leading up during this first month known as Elul, is set aside because of Shabbat. Shabbat is in its own special time zone. So every weekday of this next month of Elul, we'll be blowing one tekiah. There is no bracha when the tekiah is blown during the month of Elul. It's just a little reminder of what is coming ahead, and we call it tekiah time. So please look for it, and you'll hear the show for a number of days leading up to Rosh Hashanah. And now we will conclude with Adonai Ori V'Yishi Mimi Ira, and then we'll light candles, and you're invited to join us for lighting candles. The opening line of this phrase, as I said, is, God is my light and my help. What does that mean to see God in our own mental imagery as light? Perhaps mull that over during this short melody. God is my light and my help.
Adonai hori vishi mimi ira Adonai hori vishi mimi ira Adonai ma'oz chayai mimi efchad Adonai hori Adonai hori vishi mimi ira Adonai hori vishi mimi ira Adonai ma'oz chayai mimi efchad Adonai ori Adonai ori Ori veishi mimi ira Adonai ori vishi mimi ira Adonai ori vishi mimi ira Adonai ma'oz chayai mimi efchad Adonai ori Adonai ori Ori veishi mimi ira
And now join us for Lichtbenchen. I hope that you have candles prepared. An opportunity to bring light into our world, perhaps reminiscent of the opening line of that psalm associated with these next 6.5 weeks, to bring light into our hearts and our spirits.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
You are a blessed God for bringing light to lives. May each and every one of us walk forward into this next period of time with an awareness of the beauty of the soul with which we are endowed, and now an additional Shabbat soul. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning and perhaps tomorrow night as well at 8 o'clock for Havdalah, where we bid farewell to Shabbos. For now, Shabbat Shalom.